Welcome to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We have a fantastic episode for you tonight with Shawn Gilmore, paranormal investigator and empath. You know pretty well down there in the chat room, you mad hatters, but we have them for you live tonight. Coming up in just a moment. All right, welcome to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I do not have my co-host Vanessa Hogel with me this evening. Unfortunately, she got tied up in a lot of other work and was not able to make it tonight. So we will soldier on. Of course, we do have our chat shenanigator, Shauna, down in the chat room, as always. Thank you, Shauna. And we have Shawn Gilmore with us this evening, Ohio Metaphysics and Paranormal Research, the new team, which is very awesome. I'll give you a rundown for the new viewers who may not be familiar with Shawn. So Shawn Gilmore is an empath and paranormal investigator. His profound experiences growing up as a child and into his young adult ages are what led him to researching and investigating the paranormal. He lived his life being terrified of his home for many years. Shawn feels that if he understood the experiences differently, things could have been a lot better for himself and his family during his adolescent years. Now Shawn investigates the paranormal and hopes to help other people understand that the paranormal is actually just normal. So, welcome, Shawn. Great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's just you this time. And you have the new team, Ohio Metaphysics Paranormal, which is very cool. So, what's been going on with you?
Well, not much, really.
You can't start off the show by saying not much. We got to entice the viewers that you got a lot going on.
Really, it is a lot. Starting a new team, building a new team, it's a lot, and we're just trying to get our team out there, and we've been busy already, and just trying to keep the ball rolling and keep the momentum going. It's definitely a lot of work, being a co-founder of a team and just trying to make sure everything goes smoothly.
Yeah. You've been investigating for a while. I met you for the first time a couple years ago. You invited me out to an investigation when you were with your former team to St. Joseph's Hospital in Lorain, Ohio, which was a fantastic investigation. But this is something that you've been experiencing the paranormal since you were very young, and that took you into actually becoming a paranormal investigator. So for our newer viewers who may not know you as well, you want to kind of explain that journey a little bit?
Oh, wow. It's definitely been pretty much a lifelong journey for me. I started having my first experiences with the paranormal when I was a small child. I lived in a home where my best friend lived right behind me, and we learned that our houses were built and designed by the same guy, and we were both having weird things happen in our homes, and we were seeing I saw an apparition of a man in a wheelchair, and my friend had weird things moving around. So we actually would jump on our bikes and start researching the paranormal and reading books about ghosts and everything.
About how old were you around that time?
Oh, around that time, man, I must have been, when we started going to the library and everything, I must have been 4th, 5th grade.
Okay, so yeah, pretty young.
Yeah, I mean, back in the 80s, we were able to jump on our bikes and ride across town. It wasn't the thing like it is now, and that's just what we would do. And I'll always remember the first time I picked up a book and I read about the Gray Lady, and that was just sitting there at the library, and we were trying to do a little bit of a investigation work. As kids, we would set like. We would go downstairs in my friend's basement and take his parents, find silver and put it in certain patterns and see if they would move and things like that. And that I think that at that age it was more about the fun, keeping ourselves occupied.
Yeah, Shauna has a question already out of the chat.
Sure.
So she wants to know, did the man in the wheelchair interact as intelligent or a residual haunt? I ask because of the wheelchair. Did the chair move as if in this realm? So I guess was the wheelchair part of what you were seeing with him, or was the wheelchair already sitting there? You just saw him in it.
Yes, I saw the man in the wheelchair go down the hallway into my sister's room. What's interesting about that, though, is we were on the second floor. I don't know how a man in a wheelchair would get up to the second floor, but I did see that. And then just like creepy, I was always scared of the basement. I had it perfectly timed when to grab the strings to turn off the lights, and I have to go down there and grab some laundry, or we had an extra refrigerator in the basement, and I had it all timed, and I'd run back.
Those creepy basements, yeah.
Oh, right. And
I remember that about my grandparents' basement. That was always creepy. And yeah, kind of the same thing. You're timing all the lights and everything. Yep.
Right. You just know exactly. You just hope that you don't break the strings. You don't want to get in trouble.
Right.
But yeah, and then I'd say the most profound experience I had when I was a child is when I was in the sixth grade. Right? Yeah, in the 6th grade, I went to overnight camp, and I was brought up Jewish. It was a Jewish overnight camp, and I was for a month out of the summer. And the reason why I bring up that it's a Jewish overnight camp is because one night it was the Sabbath. It was 4th of July, and it landed on the Sabbath. And because it landed on the Sabbath, we weren't able to go see fireworks or anything, because in the Jewish religion, you're not supposed to go do anything to exert any extra energy or anything like that. So we weren't able to do that. So they had us in the community cabin, and we were doing this meditation. And then I got this feeling of dread, like there was something wrong at home. I wasn't homesick or anything like that, but I got a feeling like something was wrong at home. And I went to a counselor, and I was just asked them if I could call home, and they said, no, you're just homesick. We're not allowed to have you call home because of kids getting homesick. They'll just make things worse. And it made sense, right? But I just knew I wasn't homesick. I just knew that there was something wrong back home. And so I sat on the side of this hill by myself, just trying to figure out this feeling. And I was like thinking about how badly I wanted to call home. And after a little bit of time, that feeling went away. And I went on the rest of the camp season. And my mom came and picked me up in my great-grandmother's car. And as soon as I saw her car, I knew she passed away. And when we got home, my mom took me into her bedroom, and she sat me down and told me that my great-grandmother passed away at her kitchen table. She had a heart attack. She was all by herself. And I was sitting there. I didn't know if I was more upset that she had passed away, or if I was more freaked out, like, how did I know this?
Right.
You know? And then after that, I didn't really have many other experiences like that as a kid. Then a couple years later, we moved to Chagrin Falls into the condo that I wrote about in your book. Yeah,
Encounters with Paranormal Volume 4. I don't know why I don't have a copy sitting here. Because I do want to talk about your story. Shawn's got a copy right there. There it is, Encounters with Paranormal Volume 4. Yeah, a lot of great stories in there, and Shawn has one. And I'm fooling around with the pop guard. It just fell on me. Yeah, so let's get to, there's a $10 super chat from Tom McNicholas. This is
all
not
right.
typing for some reason. Great. All right, forget it. It's done. $10 says, or $10 says, Tom McNicholas with the $10 super chat says, nice to see Shawn again. Yes, it is, of course. So
thank you, Tom. It's nice to be on again.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, let's talk about what you wrote in Encounters with the Paranormal Volume 4, since that was also one of your younger experiences, or at least younger now, right?
Right.
So let's see, Shawn, where do we have you? We have you down here. Hey, there you are, with the parapooch. And so this is an illustration from Adam Tillery interpreting what happened to you with this with the shadow person. So what's going on here?
That is an awesome illustration. I have to say, I love it. That when the story that I wrote, it actually started when we moved in there. And when we moved in there, I was in the middle of 7th grade. And then when I saw the shadow person, I was actually in my 20s. So the story that I wrote about it's experiences that I had kind of growing up through the time in that home. And it really started out as nothing like real crazy. Just my mom would hear noises in the kitchen, like I wrote in the book, and things would move around, and there'd be times when you get like uneasy feelings like we're being watched. When things took a turn for the worse is when my sister and her friends started messing around with the Ouija board.
It's always a Ouija board, isn't it?
And so there he is.
Yeah, I was leaving the picture up there for a little bit, but yeah, it's always a Ouija board, isn't it?
Okay. Well, you know, and back then, I only had enough sense to know not to mess with it in our home. And when each time I came and I saw my sister and her friend using the Ouija board, they're in the stairwell, and it's because I was coming home from hanging out friends or from wherever I was coming from, and they'd be in the stairwell using the Ouija board. I never saw them using it in our home.
Okay.
Later, I did find out that they did use it in our home, and they actually used it in my bedroom. And I just think that they looked at it as they were messing around. They knew maybe her friend knew. I'm not sure. My sister never really expressed any experiences that she had, but her and her friend decided that it would be a good idea to try the Ouija board, and I think that they were just messing around, and
it's kind of a classic story. Kind of a classic story, you know, a bunch of kids playing around with the board, and you're saying that she never experienced anything, and probably because she's of the mindset it's just a game, we're just goofing around, we're trying to scare each other a little bit, but then activity was actually happening in the home. Right.
And I don't know, maybe she didn't want to admit it to herself. I'm not 100% sure. But my mom and I, we would talk about we would have in the home. So we were able to stories that way. And my mom even got confirmation from a neighbor, our downstairs neighbor. She would have unexplainable, I don't know exactly what they were, experiences in her home as well.
Interesting.
So, right. And one thing and my poster's falling.
Uh-oh. Yeah, my pop filter is falling. Your poster's falling. We're having some issues tonight. Vanessa's not here. What the heck is up with this show?
Right. So, what's interesting about this, there's a lot of different things. Now, when I wrote the story, I wanted to write it as a person who was not an investigator, writing it as a personal experience. And I wanted to do it like that because I want people to know that they're not alone. I didn't want it to come off as an investigator because for that very reason. But the home had there was 2 buildings. It had underneath the buildings, there were actually underwater streams, underground streams that would go underneath the buildings. There was the Chagrin River that was right across the street. And then you have 3 teenagers. Now, not only do you have 3 teenagers in a home, but you have 3 teenagers coming from into that, for lack of better terms, kind of broken. Lived with my grandparents through our very younger years, and we're moving in with my mom for the first time since I was 5 years old. So we had just the perfect storm kind of for paranormal activity on so many different, of all the research that I've done. I mean, there are so many claims of just having a brick building, an all stone building. And then you have the hormones of teenagers, especially 2 twin females that are teenagers going through puberty, right?
Right.
So it was just the perfect storm. And then my sister went and added the Ouija board into it. And I think that the darker experiences actually came from there. I think that they let something into our home. And for whatever reason, it liked me. And I tried using the Ouija board with them. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. We're in the stairwell, whatever. Okay. I did. But it didn't move. The planchette never moved with me. It never worked. So
we do have a question down in the chat from Betty Lange
sure.
about the Ouija board. She wants to know when the Ouija board became popular. I know that spirit boards came about in the late 1800s with the spiritualism movement, and then it was picked up as a game. I can't remember, it was like Hasbro or Parker Brothers, whoever picked it up and actually made it the game that kids would pick up and start using. And I don't know what year that they would have started releasing that as the game, but I know there's been many forms of communicating with spirits, but like the spirit board itself, spiritualism movement, late 1800s. So,
yep,
yeah, yeah. So Shawn, yeah, there was a lot that went on in the house, and it's interesting. That you saw that shadow. You're talking in your 20s, but you had also some other shadow person experiences around there as well. Not even just in the condo, but in the adjoining, what was it, the park?
Well, River was a large park. It's called the River Run Park, and that wasn't really a shadow person. That was a hooded figure. I don't know if they were the same entity. They very well could have been, knowing what I know now. But it was a very large man. Now, the shadow figure that I saw did not seem like large. He was tall and skinny. What we saw in the park was a very large man. And by large, I mean, he was round. He was a plump guy. And he had a hood on. And the girl I was dating at the time and we were talking in the park. And I saw out of the corner of my eye a man squatting down. Kind of, if you ever seen The Crow, kind of like the way that he would squat down, or even like Spider-Man, how he squats down. He's kind of like that, except he had a long robe. And I saw it in the corner of my eye, and I like did a double take. It wasn't there. I was like, okay, I'm just seeing stuff. It's my imagination, whatever. I didn't feel threatened or anything. So I was like, whatever. And we just continued on with our conversation. And when we were walking back down the side of the path, there's stations to work out. And the one we were walking by was the sit-up station. So there's like a bench with a bar going on it. And we saw a man sitting there, solid, man, he had a big black hood on, and he had his head down. We couldn't see his face. And so I was just like, hey, how's it going? Just playing his day, saying hi to a guy sitting at the bench, you know? Yeah. Literally, all he did was grunt, like that. And so we both looked at each other. We stopped in our tracks, looked at each other, looked back, and he was gone.
He just like that, completely gone.
Just gone. And
you didn't hear anything or anything else?
Not at all.
No. Okay.
Not at all. I have no clue. It's a big, wide open park. I mean, over to the right of us, I guess there were some trees and whatnot, but still, we would have seen them. As fast as it all happened, we would have seen it, and we definitely would have heard it. There was nothing. Literally nothing. I have no clue. We hurried back into the apartment or the condo, sorry, and that was pretty much it for that. But yeah, that was a really crazy experience, and we actually had experience in her home, but that could have been from stories that she told me. That could have been something from her own house. That was just an experience that always stuck with me, so I wanted to throw that in the story.
Right.
We were in her bedroom, and she was talking about her experiences in her house. And she said that the guy that lived there before was like a clown or something. And whenever something like comes up with clowns, like even the movie It, like weird things would happen in their house. And as we were talking about it, I turned and I looked at her clock, and the hands were just going round and round and round, like
they're just spinning on their own.
Yeah, they're just going around, not like really fast, but like, you know, like a fluid motion.
Okay.
And we were both like, it's not supposed to do that. And so I got up to take the battery out of the clock. Now, keep in mind, this clock, okay, it was huge clock, and it was a mirror.
Oh, interesting. Right? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so it's this huge like wall clock, and then the hands are just going. So I go and I take the clock down to take the battery out. There's no battery in it.
No, it didn't even have any power.
No battery in it. Yep. So I was just like, that's really weird. You said your place is haunted though, so I'm just going to turn this around and put it against your wall.
Nice.
Right. So yeah, that was so. Another about is a lot of people I think were affected mentally with the place. I mentioned a story about another girl that I dated. She came over, and she was just your normal suburban girl. No reason to really have like any problems, or she never really expressed too many things, you know, not normal teenager stuff, right? But then when she was sitting in my bedroom, she started just like, I don't know, it was weird. She completely lost her mind, and she was trying to find whatever she could to cut herself with and kill herself. And
yeah, that was a pretty disturbing part of your story, I remember.
Yeah, it was insane. It was completely insane. And my sister, she, trying to think of a good way to explain this without getting too personal. She had a lot of help with depression.
Sure.
And so I asked, what do I do? And I need help. And she's like, just call her parents. She's like, we don't want this hap going on here. She's like, get that crazy so-and-so out of our house. I'm just like, okay. So I called her parents, and ended up taking her to Windsor Hospital, which is no longer there. It's a psychiatric hospital that they had in Chagrin Falls. And then she was never allowed to talk to me, and then I decided not to press the matter and just like, you know what, okay, and I kind of let that go.
I have a question here from Murtaza Arif. Do you think the clock triggered the paranormal activity? Is it to do with the numbers and shape of the clock?
I honestly, like I said, I think that may have more to do with the activity in her home. Now, what was in my home did follow me around, so it could have been, but I'm not sure. The things that happened in my house and what made my house, things escalate in my house, I think was a lot my fault. I'm not sure. I never put two and two together with the clock. I never thought about that.
Okay. Shauna asked, does Shawn get a heads up metaphysically when something paranormal is going to happen?
I feel things. So yes,
And part of you being an empath?
Yeah. As being an empath, I feel it. And so a lot of people are able to describe it like they get a tingling in their spine or they get a feeling in their head.
Right.
Honestly, it's a feeling I get within the core of my body. That the feelings I get, that's where I get my feelings, and it's a lot feeling like an emotion. But yeah, I've had many times when something like that would happen, but there's been times when it snuck up on me too.
Okay. Tom McNicholas, and we can talk a little bit about our investigation there. Tom McNicholas asks, what is going on with St. Joe's Hospital? Are they going to keep the building? Have you heard anything lately?
St. Joe's Hospital is closed. The building itself, from what I understand, Greg Fricketic, that pretty much the building itself is not safe, and then the neighborhood itself. Now that, from what I heard through rumors, is that people were going in there doing investigations and people's cars were getting messed with. So they then got security guards, and that just all became too costly. And just between the building not being safe anymore and the neighborhood not being safe anymore, they shut it down.
That must have been pretty recent. So I was in there just a few months ago. Last I talked with Greg was, they were still kind of up in the air about what was going on. So that must be pretty recent. Yeah. I'm saying that was, months ago now. So your thing that you're reporting must be pretty recent, because that's the first I'm hearing of it.
Yeah, what I heard it was around like July or August.
Okay, yeah, that's more recent than what I heard. So if that's what's going on there, then that's a shame. Yeah, and St. Joe's, I did worry about the vandals that would go in there, and so. And so for those of you who wish to, investigate the paranormal, don't break into places. Stop that shit. Right. Because the last time I was in there on my own was back in, I want to say it was March. I went in there to do, to follow up on a couple of things that Shauna and I had experienced. And so even from the investigations that we did with you when you were with EVP. So I went in there on my own, did a live investigation out of there, stuff like that. But yeah, even then, Greg and I, Greg was letting me in, and Kathy was there too. Yeah, Kathy was there. So he chased somebody out, a couple of people, and then when I was up in there on my own, I went around the one counter, and there's this kid, sitting under the counter. He's got a hammer with him, and what? Yeah, and. So he's talking about, I just wanted to explore around a little bit. And I'm like, yeah, and that's why you got the hammer, right? He's like, oh, I got it for protection. It's like they were always in there breaking stuff, which was ridiculous. Right. So, which is sad. I never had any problems with my car, but yeah, just the fact that people keep breaking in, keep breaking in, keep breaking in. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The car thing was, I heard from other investigators. That wasn't from Greg.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure he even made a post on Facebook about how, because they wanted to keep it going for longer than they did, but they ended up having to shut it down.
Yeah, because the last time I talked to him, and it's been a while because I moved and I just haven't been able to keep up with him. The status of the hospital was kind of up in the air, but they felt that they were going to be able to run investigations out of there through the end of the year.
Right.
So if they shut that down, then that's a shame. So, but we could talk about at least our investigation there and our experiences there because it was interesting. So what do you think about St. Joe's?
Man, I'll tell you what. As an empath, hospitals are always tough. Mm-hmm. And when I go into investigations, I shield myself differently than I do. Like if I were to go and visit a friend at a hospital or even just going to work, I shield myself completely so I don't get any of the negative emotions and all the residual emotions that are within a hospital.
Well, good. Because Sharon Lane also asked the question, as an empath, how does Shawn shield himself from negativity? So answering your question, okay. Sharon.
It is. Well, the way I shield myself is I start with grounding, and I do it through kind of like a meditation, and I take energy from the center of the earth. I pull it up around me and I form a shield within my mind's eye. And that's how I shield myself in that sense. And when I do that, I use different intentions. So if I'm going to go to a hospital and visit a friend, or if I'm going to work, I will use the intention of like a mirror. Like my shield is mirrored, so negative energy bounces off of me and it doesn't affect me. Now, when I go into an investigation, I do a shield with the intent of not allowing negative energy in, but I still want to experience. And I use the intent of a white glowing shield because I want to seem welcoming to the spirits that are there. So
that's kind of what you did walking into St. Joe's?
Yes. And I also do prayer before the investigation. But yeah, that's what I did before going into St. Joe's. That's what I did before every investigation. I tried not shielding for one investigation, and I will not do that again.
Okay.
I did it as an experiment. I mean, that's what we do as investigators, right?
Yeah, see what happens. Absolutely.
Right. And I did, and it was at a place that that I thought would be safe to try it at, and it was. I just ended up. It was tough because there was points when people got aggravated during the investigation. Investigators were getting aggravated, and I kind of picked up on that, and then I picked up on the spirit that was not happy about us being there. I did have one of my coolest experiences that night, though. Something got thrown at me. This is at Willoughby Coal Supply. I'm sorry, in Willoughby, Ohio. And so and then I ended up having one of the spirits follow me home. From there. Now, after an investigation, I always, do the closing and let it be known that they're not allowed to follow me home. They don't belong with me. They belong in their home in that building. Not in those words, but I do it more through like a type of prayer. And so I did that night, but that's something ended up following me home anyways. I mean, you can only control so much, right? So, yeah, I won't do that again.
So I have another couple questions here from Shauna. Does Shawn feel freaked out by being an empath, or is he comfortable with it as time goes on?
I wouldn't say I'm freaked out by it. There's times when it's just really hard. And there's times I really just don't like being an empath, and I just wish it wasn't there. Now when I get an intuition and it gets confirmed, I get excited. I hope that excitement never goes away, because that's really cool when that happens. So I don't know, I hope that answers your question.
From Judy Wilson, do you use stones or herbs like sage?
Yes, I use both. Actually, I have a Apache tear made by Vanessa Hogel. I wear it around my neck. I don't leave the house without it. And then I have my crystals, which actually are in my bedroom right now, that I carry. I carry a pouch of crystals. So I do use those as an aid.
Okay. Another one from Shauna. When he shields, does it shield him from everything, or is he able to discern some energies from others and still get info from spirits? When
I am investigating, yes, the way that I shield myself, I leave it open so that it can still get in and I can still feel the energies and have the experiences. I just don't allow the negative energy to come in. Anything that means harm to me, I don't want it inside me. I don't want it. So that's pretty much what I'm shielding myself from, is the extreme danger, I suppose.
Okay. And from Judy Wilson, is there any way he can turn it off, like close it off until he's ready to use it again?
Being an empath?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. And Betty Lange just tossed one in here. Has Shawn ever investigated a funeral home or a morgue? Well, the morgue at St. Joe's, so.
Right. Well, I've done the House of Wills.
That's right. You did the House of Wills. True enough. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. It's kind of an interesting place.
It is.
Let people know what the House of Wills is and how that investigation went.
Oh, wow. The House of Wills, that place. Okay. That building is a abandoned funeral home, which was owned by an African-American man. And he was one of the most successful African-American businessmen in Cleveland. And before he bought it for his funeral home, it was actually used for a Masonic temple. That's what it was built as. And so now, jumping forward to the owner now, he is a Satanist. He's a really nice guy, very intelligent. It just kind of adds to the energy of the place, I think. The previous owner, Mr. Wills, he was a very big partier. He'd always have parties in his living area of the funeral home, and this is during like the 70s, and they're just having a good old time. And so a lot of weird things happen in that building. And when you go in, you can tell it was a Masonic temple. I don't know if you've been to one before. I'm sure you have.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But you could tell.
You can see the architecture in there. Yeah.
Yeah, you could tell the architecture. You have the big oval room, and you could tell. And those buildings are built to keep energy in, right? So you take that, and then you add everything else to it. And Mr. Wills, he was also involved in the in the movement, the civil rights movements. And you can actually, I have photos of signs from the civil rights movement that I found in a closet there. So the building itself is interesting. The history is very interesting, and the activity there, it's pretty cool. Honestly, I've heard people having some insane experiences there. I mean, I saw a shadow figure, which is awesome, but got some EVPs, but it's not like the experiences that other people have explained from the location.
Yeah, I've heard about some wild things happening there.
Yeah, I didn't have anything like that happen, but we did have some good interaction. The one thing about the building is it's just in total disrepair.
Yeah,
and
it's also a very dangerous neighborhood. You want to talk about dangerous neighborhoods? I mean, come on.
I haven't gotten to that part, but yeah, it's.
I mean, they talk about St. Joe's, which it's not the best place in the world, but at least as far, I mean, it's Lorraine compared to east side of Cleveland.
Yeah, it's literally there is a what do they call them? Sorry, I've had a long, hard day at work. I apologize. A project. There's a project, literally one of the biggest.
It's in the ghetto, so
most dangerous projects in Cleveland is literally like a block away from there.
Yeah,
and that's not even an exaggeration. So, yeah, the neighborhood it's in is not safe. Definitely, I checking on your car multiple times. So, and people have had people during investigations break into the building. I've heard lots of stories of that. So yeah, it's that adds to it too. That makes it definitely more interesting.
Yeah, I haven't yet been there, but yeah, I've heard a lot of interest, and I've heard from you some interesting stuff. So, Paranormal World Investigators, you kind of already answered this earlier. Do you do earthing or bonding when you go to places?
Earthing or bonding?
I think earthing is grounding.
Yeah,
which you talked about earlier.
Yeah, I do the grounding, and I try to. If by bonding you mean, yeah, I try to connect with spirit, and I want, if that's what he's saying. But yeah, I'm very much as an empath connected to our planet, to nature. I actually feel the most at ease when I am out in the woods hiking, and I'm surrounded by trees and nature and the animals. The times when I feel least is when I'm in the city. It's like I feel the pain of our planet in the city. I don't like going to the city. So, but I connect very much with the earth, and that's one way that I help ground myself. And if I find myself in a situation, I'm able to go and lean on a tree, put my hands on a tree, and help grounding, help ground myself some more and get that protection back and get centered again.
So I gotta comment on this. So they're saying down in the chat we both look very tired. I know you were working up until like 5 minutes before we went live, and I drove in from Ohio like late last night. I got in about 1:30 in the morning, and then and then of course I was working on getting the show ready. Usually I connect with with the guest about 15 minutes before the show, and I was late connecting with Shawn. He was already in there. So
literally when you came on, I had just logged in.
You had just logged in? Okay.
Oh man.
So yes, we're both beat. But we're here doing this.
And I'm still scatterbrained from that. Right. So I normally after work, you have time to unwind, reset. There was no unwinding, there was no reset. It's just boom, boom, boom. But you know what? It's good.
Yeah. Been going straight for hours and hours. Yeah. So Let's get to the, because we got about 15 minutes left in the show. Let's get to the Parapooch clip, because this was interesting. This is really just a snippet. And even like the Old Licking County Jail video that we put out there that included a lot of the Parapooch footage, it was just a portion of it. There was a lot that happened. But I wanted to cover that with you just because it was really interesting. So let's go down here and get that. So
that's cool.
You won't be able to hear it, Shawn.
Remember that?
Maybe get pet the other dog. Yeah, it does not want to.
The other dog in a peep.
Yep, every time. Is there something you're trying to tell us? You have a message for us?
Touch the other dog if the big dog is in your chair. Please. There it is.
Here's my dog.
Now it's in that chair. It's mad.
You moved the dog. You moved the big dog from the, the higher ground there.
Now nope. Now that one's going off. That is your chair, isn't it?
Is that the deal? It's the chair?
Okay, so that was just a little bit of it, and what was really interesting is that it seemed like whatever was messing with the dogs, it had to do with the chair. It did not want anything in the chair. And it was very responsive to any time that we would suggest about moving something or touching something or whatever, it would, for lack of a better term, bark at us.
Right. I'd have to agree with that. And even when I was there previously, I was there like a year or two before we were there, and we had my Parapooch on that chair, and I was getting interaction with the Parapooch on that chair, and so maybe it is that chair. There behind there, you could see kind of a photograph. There has been a photo captured of a shadow figure in that room. So,
and they've been calling him David.
Yep. Yeah, David. And maybe that's where he sits and relaxes. Maybe that's his spot. Maybe that's his chair.
There are a lot of people that responded to that video saying, "Well, it was sitting on a metal chair, and so it would set off the detector, the EMF detector inside, and all that." But we had that set up before then in one of those cells on the metal bunks, and nothing. There's nothing there. But we got into that room, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 and it just kept going.
Yeah.
And
you know what? To be honest with you, most times when I'm using the Parapooch, it ends up on some sort of a metal folding chair, just because that's what ends up being available at most places that we investigate at. So I don't feel like that chair would cause that. And in order for the sensors to go off, you have to literally just be literally touching, just off by a half an inch for it to go off. So I really don't think it was the chair. If it was the chair, then it would be going off flatlining, right? In my mind, when you have a REM pod, or even take a K2 meter, right? You take it and you put it up to a fuse box, it lights up red and it stays red. So if there was something going through that chair, it would just be continuously going off, and it wouldn't be responding intelligently like it was.
Yeah, that was the crazy thing. I mean, sure, there were times where it was just going off, but still, there were times we're sitting there, we're asking the questions, having a conversation, and it was like boom, boom, boom. I mean, I don't think we could have perfectly timed all of those different responses.
Right.
Yeah. So, and even
that was a crazy night.
Yeah, it was. And what was also kind of interesting was we walked away from it for a little while. We left him set up. We went into the other room. It was still kind of going off as we were leaving. So It was really
Right.
interesting. You use the Parapooch a lot?
It's my favorite piece of equipment. Yeah, I use it a lot. I try to bring it on every investigation. Now, granted, it's not going to be appropriate for every investigation, but for the jail, I felt like it was appropriate for that jail, I should say. I felt like it was appropriate because it had a living quarters, and there probably were children there that lived there at some point. So that's why I first brought it when I was with Ectovision. So I don't know if I'd bring it to Ohio State Reformatory and expect a lot of interaction. When we went, I did bring it. That was because some of the other investigators asked me to. We didn't end up using it, but I brought it for them. So I feel like you have to think of where you're at before you use something. But I try to. If I can use it, I'm going to. I love it. I don't know. I get a lot of great interaction with it, and a lot of intelligent interaction.
Yeah. No, they're definitely intelligent responses with that at night. From Sharon Lane, Sean, why is Ohio so haunted?
You know, Ohio has a very interesting history, a very long history.
Longer than most people would actually expect.
Yes.
Because there's all those ancient mounds and everything around there.
Right.
People just don't realize exist.
Right, exactly. Native Americans have lived in Ohio. I mean, ancient Native Americans have lived in Ohio. I mean, so there's a lot of history here, and there have been a lot of those burial mounds that have been desecrated and destroyed. And I mean, I don't know if you could just say like Ohio. I mean, Indiana's got some great hauntings too.
Sure.
Great haunted locations too. So maybe it's the Great Lakes. I'm not sure. I mean, there's a lot of dark history. I mean, the way that the Native Americans were either forced to move out or were murdered, and then going on to just the settler times, and in the way that people were treated. You know, you go look at the way people were treated in mental hospitals, the way that they were treated in jails. It's a lot different than they are now. People were treated very poorly. They didn't have the laws, and people, for whatever, didn't care as much.
Yeah, it seems like each segment of history had its bad moments. I mean, there were all the fighting with the Native Americans, pushing them out, all that. I mean, you talk about like battles of Tippecanoe and things like that. Right. You mentioned the mental hospital, of course. The old insane asylum there in Athens, and people talk about all the time, which is now part of Ohio University. So you have a lot of different things like that. Right. Yeah, so I think you're right about that. That you kind of pick out a moment in time, and you could probably find something. I mean, right now, I would ask you, why are the Browns so cursed?
They're the Browns. Yeah. They need a new team, new name, new everything. But that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, I know. I had to slip that in there somewhere.
No, I'm not a big football guy, so it's okay.
That's okay.
My son likes the Browns. I'm not so much. I don't know. I'm not a big football guy. But what is interesting about Ohio? There's a lot of mass murders that are from Ohio.
Yeah.
A lot of musicians are from Ohio.
Sure enough.
Right? So
I mean, you could definitely find a lot of things about Ohio, and it may even date back to the way Ohio was formed. You think about the glaciers that we're in. I say here, I'm in Illinois now, but we're in Ohio, and the way they receded. So it could even have something to do with the way the land was carved. Maybe that's why the ancients built some of the mounds the way they did. You never know. Yeah. So yeah. All right. So Judy Wilson, are there any places that you have been at that you would never go back to?
You know, there was one place that I said I never wanted to go back to, but I've been back there numerous times, and that's Madison Seminary.
Really? Why's that?
Yeah. Oh, well, the first time I was there, it was just I was affected by with something that's there. And it just made me very angry, and so after the investigation, even like, you know, the next day you have the paranormal hangover, whatever. But even the weeks, I think it was like a week or two after that, I just had the string of the worst luck. I was saging myself like every day to every other day, saying the St. Michael prayer, and oh man, I mean, one experience just to kind of let. One day I was at work, I was eating a bag of combos, and I chipped a tooth.
Oh wow, eating combos,
right? And so then I had to go to the dentist, right? So the next day I went to the dentist and whatever. And on my way back to work from the dentist, my alternator died.
Oh, wow.
What's more interesting about the alternator dying is that alternator was 2 weeks old. Brand new alternator, not rebuilt, not one of the
brand new and died after 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I've been to Madison Seminary. I found it an interesting location. Yeah, that top floor is pretty much off the charts. And that's Madison, Ohio, so another Ohio haunt.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, but I've been back there. I know Adam, the guy who runs the place. Him and his mad crew, they do an awesome place. They have fixed the place up so beautifully. And I've helped do tours there, and I even went back and investigated with John Ward at with the Ohio Paranormal Syndicate.
Yeah, you missed the one that I went there with them.
Yeah, that just didn't. It just didn't work out, man. And honestly, at that time, it was cold still.
It was a cold investigation. That is for sure.
Yeah,
that was.
So, I mean, not only did I have to work, and it wasn't a good time, but we had done the Ohio State Reformatory investigation, and that was cold. And then
that was you were there for that one. Yeah, that was a cold one.
Yeah, that was cold.
That was cold.
And then I went back
talking like 15 degrees cold.
Right. Yeah, it was really cold. And then I went and I did a tour at Madison Seminary, helped with the flashlight tours. It was really cold. And I was just like, you know what? I'm done with being cold. So that was a big part of it. But really, it didn't work out for me. I would have gone if I could, but it just didn't work out for me.
It happens. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't work in your schedule. I mean, we all have lives and work other jobs, and so it happens. From Stephanie Miljack, has Shawn been to a place where shielding did not work?
Where it didn't work? I mean, I guess Madison Seminary.
Okay.
Because of the way that happened. We trust me, I shielded. Man, I took extra time shielding before going in there, and we were getting towards the end of the investigation, and we're up on the top floor, and I was filming Eric investigate with Ray Gooseby, and I think Amber was there too, and then just the guys running the camera. And I was just standing there getting angry. I was just angry. I'm like, I wanted to throw the camera, and I didn't understand where this anger. I was just so frustrated, and I was just done. I'm like, I'm done. I don't even want to be holding this camera. This is ridiculous. And so afterwards, we decided to break down, And by breakdown, I mean we set up like 8 static cameras in a building. So we had to go bust down all the cameras and get them put away. And so I'm going and I'm just hustling, getting stuff down. And keep in mind, I have a bad back, so my back is killing me. And I'm hustling. I'm getting everything down, and a couple of the guys are following me. And Eric and Amber were up on the top floor, right outside of what they call the asylum area, and they're just taking their time. That aggravated me, and normally I don't care. I'm an easygoing. Someone, that I on a normal day, I probably would assume, oh, they're probably experiencing something's going wrong, or maybe who knows, but I wouldn't have been upset. I was just getting really frustrated more we were there. And come the, after everything's all said and done, that wasn't my energy. And I was shielded, so I wasn't focusing on whether it was mine or not. I was just focusing on being aggravated.
Right.
And so I let my guard down. And so that probably was part of it as well.
Okay.
But yeah, Madison got me good.
Yeah, it sounds like it. One last one, then we'll wrap up because we are at our hour mark. From Donna Gorton, Shawn, what do you do after investigations to recharge you?
Sleep.
Sleep. No, that's not a joke because really we get back so late at night. It's like, boom.
Yeah. I sleep as much as I can. I've got kids, so I really emphasize on it as much as I can. But really, sleep is the best. I'll also go and again sit by a tree. I have some beautiful trees in my yard, and I'll go sit by a tree for a while, or go on a hike to recharge.
Cool, very cool. All right, where can everybody find you in the new group?
Well, of course, you can find us on Facebook, Ohio Metaphysics and Paranormal Research. You can also now find us at ompr330.com. So we have our we have our website up and running. So you can go and you can meet the team. Man, this team is awesome. This group of people, I put them together with doing home investigations the right way, and this is the team to do that. And
great.
It's just a great group of people. All, I don't know, I love them. So yeah, check us out. We actually have an event in Akron, Ohio that we just got. It's in old tunnels in the Canal Place buildings in downtown Akron. And actually, my employer's old office was in there, and I had some experiences in there. Those
Cool.
buildings are definitely haunted. And old friend, psychic medium Laura Lynn, is doing an event to raise money for the homeless people in the Akron-Canton area and for the local historical society. And so people will get to explore the tunnels there, and we'll be there helping with that event. And then the next event we have planned after that is the big event with Tri-C at OSR, which I believe I saw your name on the list too.
Yep, gonna be there. That's May, what is it, 4th to 5th? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that'll be a great event. So looking forward to that. That basically kind of replaces the psychic fair that they did up at St. Joe's, which was huge.
Yep.
And so they'll be doing that at OSR next year. So yeah, that'll be a great event.
Yeah,
definitely.
They got chip coffee.
Yeah, bringing a chip. So yeah, it'll be a good time.
Yeah.
So and they always raise a lot of money for the local charities and everything, which is really good. Yeah. So all right, let's go ahead and get to the shout out. So Super Chat Superstars. For this show, Tom McNicholas, thank you very much for being a Super Chat Superstar this evening. So let's get to the shout-outs. Of course, I want to thank Shauna, our chat shenanigator, for shenanigating the chat. Then our Cheshire Cat, Donna Gorton, is down there in the house, so thank you very much, Donna. Tim Schoen is down there. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Bree Jones, thank you very much. EQ, thanks for joining us again tonight. Tammy Heisman, thank you too. Dustin Samario, thank you for joining us this evening. The Hagelin, hey, thanks for coming back. B3 Airspace, one of our Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons. So Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons, that's our Patreon page, patreon.com/Haunted Road Media. That's Tom McNicholas, B3 Airspace, Zippy Davis, BD Flint, Pamela Queen, Joe Chandler, Andrew Cox. Thank you guys very, very much. Really do appreciate that. So there we have Sharon Lane down there, Betty Lange. Appreciate the questions. Judy Wilson, you had a lot of questions in there too. Mickey Dole is down in the house. Thank you very much. Tracy Christian, thank you as well. There's Tim Schoen. Very, very cool. Thank you for joining us again. A lot of people, a lot of questions. Diane Hilbert, our fairy queen. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Shawn Gilmore's usually down here, so that's a name I'm usually saying, and I'm not right now. Which is all right. Rick Gabbert, thanks for joining us again tonight. Appreciate that. There's Katie Palmer. Thanks again. X Group Home Kid, thank you for joining us again. Greg Grinkin, thank you too. Who else do we have down in here? All right, I'm going to go ahead and scroll back down. Well, Denise Pridemore was in the house. Hey, thanks, Denise. So, yeah, the story that I was telling about finding the kid under the counter at St. Joe's, I was actually just about to start a show. I was going to be on Denise Pridemore's show, and I was about to start, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm finding the kid. Wow. Robert White and Sean Oldsmith from Australia were both in the house. Appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to scroll back down here. Lavender Wolf 6, thanks for joining us tonight. Yeah, there's Sean Oldsmith. There you go. Andrew Cox is down there. And anybody else? Paranormal World Investigators, thanks for joining us. Thanks for the question as well. So I think that is going to about do it. If I missed you, not intentional. It just, there's a lot of people down there, So, all right, everybody. Up next, we have Inside the Upside Down. We're going to be going into historic exploration. So exploring those different haunted places, the history behind them, all of that, and why we do it. This is part of our Why series. And so we're going to get into a number of different locations and places and why we do all these different crazy things that we do. All right, everybody. And for those in the U.S., happy Thanksgiving. We'll catch you later. Shawn, again, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Hey, right. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Mike.
Yep. You too. Take care.
Good.